Hello and welcome to the Digital EDU Dialogues podcast. I'm Angela Butcher, and joining me today is Sheila Fry, the COO of the Babb Group. Welcome, Sheila.
Hello there. Good to see you again, as always.
Yes, we're so glad to have you back because we are going to talk about something that's really becoming a key factor in distance learning. The U.S. Department of Education is now requiring this of schools, and it is called Regular and Substantive Interactions. We're going to call it RSI because we've decided that saying substantive is a really challenging word to say.
It is.
We're just going to go with RSI, but so everyone has regular and substantive interactions in online and in distance learning. So Sheila, let's start by explaining what this is.
Yeah, it's a big topic right now, and it's something that schools are just starting to really dig into. And as you mentioned, it's from the Department of Education has put this down as a way to define, if you will, what is distance education? What does that mean for students? What does that mean for faculty? What does that mean for institutions? So it's basically in a nutshell, you're looking at the ways of how interaction is defined between faculty and students, the emphasis on that learning, the emphasis on that connection. So and kind of the same thing there, I want to use my notes because what is involved with this is you have to, as a school and in your classes, and this is whether it's asynchronous, synchronous, hybrid, any of those types of things, the big differentiating factor is you're looking at how this being distance education is different from a self-paced correspondence type learning course where an instructor may just post information and then the student goes through it on their own. So what is that interaction? What is that type of thing? So you need to include and hit 2 of these 5 actions. And these actions are that you are with an instructor as defined by your institution's accrediting body. Obviously, that could be pretty much anything depending on your accrediting body. It needs to be initiated by the instructor. So what does that look like? Could that be outreach? Could that be office hours? A variety of different things. That the interaction itself is scheduled and predictable. And obviously those that are synchronous courses, which would have live components built into them, either weekly or whatever schedule would be, has that automatically built in, but that would fall into the area of defined and scheduled and predictable. Same thing with regular office hours. The interaction needs to be academic in nature and relevant to the course. This to me is an easy one. This is the role of the instructor. This is what makes it stand out. This is what makes it different. That's the interaction and such that you're having with them. And then you're having that substantive interaction assumes that the interaction between the learner and instructor requires direct instruction from the instructor. That's a lot. So what does that mean? Mm-hmm. That means you're grading in a timely manner. That means you're putting in some announcements. That means you're facilitating some discussions. And then also within that accrediting body one, is there something specific that individual accrediting body requires you to have for your distance learning courses? But again, it's 2 out of 5. So that's very doable. And in most cases, probably a lot of faculty are doing this. But in some ways, with this coming out, it's putting attention to it. It's saying, hey, we as faculty just can't post content and let the students and grade once every 8 weeks or twice every 16 weeks. We need to build that interaction with them.
And as I think about the 2 of the 5, yep, here in front of me too, it occurs to me that it's really about us as instructors making that first step of contact with students, as well as really providing feedback that's robust. So it's more than great job on this paper. It's here are the things that I'd like to see you do more of that you did really well. And here are the things that need improvement, or providing feedback in a way that resonates with the student, whether it's video feedback, audio feedback, checking in with the student, what kind of feedback works for them so that we're building those relationships with them and meeting their needs as a learner for what they need so they can improve for their next assignment.
Exactly. RSI should be looked at as very natural. The attempt is to bridge the gap between the face-to-face type of instruction, that type of interaction that the faculty has with the students there, and try to mimic it more in a consistent basis in an online learning environment. So you're engaging with the students, you're creating that community, you're trying to make those connections. You can't see the student, tapping on their computer screen to say, hey, I'm here, I have a question. Make those connections, make it, because they're going to be more excited about the learning process. They're going to be able to use the learning and knowledge that you have as faculty that you're going to exchange with them. And they're going to be able to progress and be excited and persist with their program and not leave, because they're getting those types of interactions and supports that make them feel not isolated.
Mm-hmm. And something that I've been doing a lot this semester is encouraging students to meet with me virtually. And
Exactly.
I know office hours can be so challenging when we're working with virtual students because they're all over. We might be in different time zones. So sure, we've got the office hours. But something I've been doing more of is when I'm giving them feedback, saying, if you have questions about this, let's take 15 minutes to meet. When are you available this week? When are you available before the next assignment? And I think limiting it to 15 minutes is helpful as well. Like, we're not going to take an hour. I'm not going to take a ton of your time. But I think if we met for 15 minutes and had a conversation where we can see one another or hear one another, maybe it's just on the phone, that having that real voice can be really helpful for students that need more than just that text-based feedback in a WYSIWYG box or in a rubric.
Again, that's what differentiates it. You are creating connections with them. They're feeling connected to you. There's an engagement, there's a give, and there's a take, and there's an exchange of information. There's an exchange of knowledge. It's not that you've left them on their own and you're just, letting the publisher materials just run your content. You are engaged, you're focused, you're sharing, you're using, this ties into everything else we've talked about, workforce relevance, using those types of things, those examples that you can provide in these types of interactions in a variety of ways that we'll talk about more and how to do this, but it makes them feel less isolated. And if you're really, one of the big things when distance learning first came out was, those faculty aren't doing anything, or the students aren't learning anything. And as you know, as you've taught, I teach, it takes a lot of time. It can be, and a lot of people who say I teach face-to-face, and this online learning takes a lot of time to put it together, to interact, to provide that. Some of us have courses that have very high enrollments in these particular classes. So it takes a lot of time to make those connections with everybody. So the intent is that the student doesn't feel alone. That's kind of my big takeaway from it. And then what are the very easy things that you can do that you would do even face-to-face that we would just convert to what works in an online modality to be successful for the student and to create that engagement.
One of the things that you and I love to talk about are discussion boards and how we're interacting in discussions. And I think discussions are such an easy place to build these connections. So talk more about how to use discussions as a tool for RSI.
Yeah, well, and the big differentiating factor here is if you're looking at it from how am I going to meet these standards? If you are a synchronous course, it's very easy because you have that fixed time and you're doing that. So the challenge then with asynchronous is how am I going to achieve this? Like you said, the discussions, and we do talk about this a lot, and it's a big soapbox thing with me to create an effective discussion. So this is where the faculty is able to give their expertise, tie in their experiences, the workplace relevance, not dominate the discussion, but be more like, as I would say, like a bus driver. You're kind of driving them around the topics. You're driving them to new destinations where they can learn more, where they can exchange a different learning experience from each other, because they're coming in from all different types of feedback. So designing those as an open-ended, not ask, tell, don't review this case study because everybody's going to come up with the same answer. How to look at different industries, how to tie it in, how to make it relevant. So that in itself, with that interaction right there, you're creating community, you're creating engagement. They're connecting with you immediately because you've made them feel at ease. And you've also made yourself approachable. So you've achieved so many things with just one weekly discussion.
Yeah, the discussion to me is such a beautiful place for having the same kind of interactions that we would in class.
Exactly.
And I think a couple of things that I've adapted over the years, when I first started in online education, it was a very formal thing to write in the discussion, and we had to hit
Yes.
so many words, and we were requiring citations and references.
It was like an assignment, not a
Yes.
discussion. Yeah,
Yes. And
exactly.
now to be more casual in that discussion, we're not texting in the discussion, but we're being more casual with our language and allowing for more informal sharing of ideas and
Mhm,
conversation, that
mhm.
it really is a conversation. I think when we take out some of those requirements and instead encourage real conversation. And I think it's an opportunity to share diverse perspectives, as well as an instructor to share new resources. If you're working in a class that has been designed by another instructional designer and has been given to you where, we don't necessarily have a say in the format of the class,
Mhm.
it is an opportunity to share resources and experiences that can apply to those particular students in a way that that maybe were not included in the design of the course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that can be very easy, and it's something that it takes. I don't want to say it's a hurdle, but it kind of is, because there were so many that, this is the way it was. Like you said, it's very far, you have to have 5 sources and it needs to be 500 words, and you're doing that. And that's an assignment. That's not, maybe we should rename discussions conversations or something like that. Maybe that would resonate more with
Mhm.
people on how well this can be used really as a learning tool to help prepare them for whatever mastery that you're having them do towards the end of each week or later in the course.
Mhm. And I think it also prepares them for virtual work, right?
Right.
What a great tool to practice communicating clearly and
Hmm.
professionally, but still conversationally. So I think it's become a really great tool for building those
Yeah.
online communities that we certainly have in a virtual workspace.
Yeah.
All right, what are some other ways that we can practice RSI in our classrooms that are really practical?
Well, obviously we talked discussion board, so we'll take that
Mhm,
off our list
mhm,
there. But you can have, like you said, the appointments and in office hours, you can meet with them. And I'm kind of the same way. I mean, it's so hard with everyone. You have different time zones, you have different schedules. Let's meet, just set a time and let's meet and talk. So that type of thing would fall into there. Your course announcements, other than, okay, in week 4, you have a quiz and you have an assignment due on Saturday. No, what are the topics? What are you learning? Maybe you're using a video to do this, or something to record to share. So they have that visual aspect of you. They have that type of substantial vision of what you're looking for and what they're going to learn that week. Just something that's more than, this is what's due, and that type of thing.
Something
Um,
that I want to share that I do with announcements is I'll have my set announcements for each week that I may pre-build before the course starts that are, here's the highlights of the week and some things I want you to take away. But then after I'm done grading, typically on a Monday, after I'm done grading on a Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, I will share another announcement about, like, here's what I saw in your assignments this week.
yeah.
Here's what everyone did really well. And here's what I want you to take into the next assignment. Or we were talking about AI, like, here's where I'm seeing some AI abuse. Let's work on this for next week and make some changes. So using a video maybe midweek to offer a second announcement to students to share, here's what I see happening this week. And so it's just a little bit of making it relevant to this particular course and these particular students, or what we were talking about, or maybe something going on in the world that's relevant to the course.
Exactly. I was just going to say that something current events or something that resonates with us. Here's something that we see Amazon does every day, and this is how they connect with their this is how they're positioned. This is how they're reaching out to their customers. This is the behaviors that they have. Giving them, it encourages them to come back to the course often. It encourages them to create a sense of excitement for the course and what they're going to learn. And the nice thing is, beyond all of these things, is you can, no matter if it's a faculty created course or an instructional designer with a faculty as a subject matter expert designing them, you can design these types of elements into a course to make them more effective, make them almost secondary nature for someone who's going to teach it then, because it's very easy, because it's in there. There's suggested announcements, do something on this, do something on that. In institutions, you can even create, online checklists that faculty may use to help create that, are you doing this each week? Are you making these types of connections? Did you post this announcement? Did you send out some sort of reminder through some messaging, that type of thing, to help you make it easy to interact before it becomes second nature. I mean, you and I, we kind of do it just naturally because that's how we're used to interacting with students. But some people might need a little help at the beginning. Sometimes it's just comfort. They don't feel comfortable doing it. But once you do it a little bit and you see the response from the students, that they're excited, they're engaged, you see it in the feedback. And that's another one that's on this list of ways that you connect is that feedback. I kind of do one, I call it taking your online temperature. I do it a couple times throughout the course. And I have this funny little graphic of this, thermometer with this coming out, are you burning up? Are you okay? Is your temperature okay? Because there's sometimes those students still with everything that you do not feel comfortable or something's going on. 9 times out of 10 in this case, because it's so funny, so lighthearted, so genuine in my effort of, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? That they will reach out then with time. So it's a way to help them persist, a way to improve their success. And again, like we've said, it's making those connections, making that a form of community and engagement.
Is there anything else that you want to share that you think is important about RSI as we all work towards incorporating this into our distance learning?
Well, we always fear anytime there's maybe some in governmental involvement telling us what we need to do and what not to do. We don't like it. But with this particular thing, the intent to me is positive. It's based on research. It's based on best practices. It's based on, basically trying to sit there and say, okay, as you as faculty, you need to engage with them. The students want it. They want to build. They want to persist. They want to learn. That's what, in rough words, that's what you're getting paid to do. So you should be doing it. But just, don't be afraid of it and you will reap the rewards from your students.
Sheila, thank you so much for all these practical ideas and ways that we can start incorporating this into our classes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This episode of DigitalEDU Dialogues is brought to you by the Babb Group. The demands for teaching and online learning are constantly evolving. Don't get left behind. Carve out a competitive edge and give students engaging learning experiences with support from the Babb Group's team of course design experts. As experienced online faculty and instructional designers, the Babb Group knows how to craft those aha moments for students and meet outcomes for every modality, online, hybrid, and face-to-face, creating engaging, welcoming, and inclusive learning spaces for students of all ages and abilities has never been more important. Discover how the Babb Group can help you by visiting their website today.